The story begins not in a courtroom, but in a world dripping with champagne and billion-dollar secrets. Picture it: a yacht slicing through the Mediterranean, the flash of paparazzi bulbs bouncing off designer gowns at Cannes, and private jets, lined up on tarmacs like toys for the world's richest elite. This is the backdrop where Lauren Sanchez and Jeff Bezos were supposed to be untouchable. The ultimate power couple, he, the world's most relentless businessman, and she, the glamorous TV host turned helicopter pilot who captured his heart. But behind the velvet ropes and the red carpet smiles, chaos was waiting. Because in a move that sent shockwaves across Silicon Valley and Hollywood alike, Elon Musk, yes, the man who thrives on disruption, allegedly leaked private messages from Lauren Sanchez. And not just any texts. These were intimate, volatile, and possibly devastating messages tied to a staggering $4 billion legal case. Overnight, a story of luxury turned into a saga of betrayal. When the leak hit the media, insiders say Lauren was blindsided. What began as whispers on Twitter exploded into front-page headlines within hours. Networks ran breaking news crawls. Gossip blogs posted screenshots. Reaction videos flooded TikTok. And while the world feasted on the drama, Lauren reportedly crumbled. Eyewitnesses described her as ashen-faced, unable to stand, and in complete shock after realizing her private words were now weaponized in public. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just days before, she had been photographed, glowing beside Bezos on the deck of a superyacht in Sardinia, champagne flute in hand, looking like nothing could touch them. But behind the sparkle, Musk was allegedly preparing his strike, a carefully timed leak that turned Lauren's fairy tale into a nightmare. To understand the scale of this collapse, imagine the stakes. These weren't just casual texts. Sources claim they touched on business dealings, personal rivalries, and even secrets Lauren thought would never leave her inner circle. And with billions of dollars hanging in the balance, the fallout wasn't just personal. It was global. In that moment, Lauren Sanchez wasn't the glamorous fiancée of the richest man alive. She wasn't the confident, jet-setting woman we've seen on magazine covers. She was vulnerable, exposed, and, according to one insider, she literally collapsed when she realized the magnitude of what Musk had done. And that collapse wasn't just emotional. It set the stage for a brutal war where love, loyalty, and billions of dollars would all be on the line. Because once the leaks hit the internet, the world got its first glimpse into messages Lauren Sanchez never expected anyone outside her circle to see. These weren't harmless exchanges about dinner reservations or party invites. They were sharp, emotional, and, in some cases, downright incriminating. According to insiders, the leaked texts revealed two major bombshells. First, whispers of Bezos' empire being dragged into private conversations. In one message, Lauren allegedly confided details about Amazon's next big strategy to a close friend, expressing fear that Jeff doesn't realize who's circling him. That single line set social media on fire. Who was she talking about? A competitor? An insider ready to betray Bezos? Or was she hinting at Musk himself? Second, the leaks exposed a feud Lauren had been hiding, a bitter back and forth with another billionaire's wife. Screenshots painted a picture of jealousy, accusations, and even warnings that your name won't survive this industry if you cross me. The messages read like scenes from a soap opera, but they were all too real, and the timing couldn't have been more damaging. Social media did what it always does, tore the story apart, meme by meme, screenshot by screenshot. On Twitter, one user joked, "Elon just dropped billionaire receipts like he's DJing a scandal set list." Another called it the most expensive group chat in history. TikTok creators spliced dramatic music over the screenshots, turning the text into viral soap opera edits that racked up millions of views in hours. But not everyone was laughing. Some commentators pointed out that the messages could be devastating in court. A high-profile attorney speaking on a late-night panel suggested, If these texts are authenticated, they could open Bezos up to claims of insider exposure. This isn't just gossip, it's legal dynamite. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about embarrassment, it was about a $4 billion case that could tilt depending on the words Lauren typed in confidence. For Lauren, the humiliation was unbearable. Eyewitnesses say she broke down in tears when friends sent her screenshots of her own words plastered across headlines. The woman, who once commanded helicopters with ease, now seemed grounded, weighed down by betrayal. One source close to her said bluntly, she wasn't crying because the world was judging her. She was crying because she knew Elon just weaponized her voice against her. The cruel irony? These weren't even Musk's messages. They weren't his secrets to share. Yet somehow he had obtained them, and by dropping them at just the right moment, he shifted the entire narrative of the lawsuit. He didn't just leak texts, he detonated a bomb under Bezos and Sanchez's carefully built image. And while Bezos tried to retreat into silence, Musk reveled in the chaos. Paparazzi caught him smirking outside a Tesla event the night the leaks went viral, shrugging off reporters' questions with a sly, "I don't deal in rumors." The clip went viral instantly, painting Musk as the puppet master pulling strings behind the curtain. The question that echoed across tabloids, podcasts, and every gossip blog in existence was the same. If this is what was in the first leak, what else does Musk have? Because if these messages were just the beginning, then Lauren Sanchez wasn't just facing a scandal. She was staring down the unraveling of everything she built, both personally and financially. And in the shadows, Jeff Bezos was about to realize the betrayal wasn't just public, it might be personal. For Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man, control has always been his trademark. He built Amazon by outthinking competitors, outspending rivals, and outmaneuvering governments. But in this moment, control slipped right through his hands. Because while Musk was busy leaking Lauren's private messages, Bezos was caught completely off guard. The billionaire titan who prided himself on always being 3 steps ahead suddenly looked like a man blindsided in his own empire. Insiders paint a brutal picture. According to one source close to Bezos, when he first saw the leaked messages, his reaction was explosive. He allegedly stormed out of a high-level meeting at Blue Origin headquarters, slamming the table so hard executives froze in their seats. One witness recalled, he didn't say a word. He just grabbed his phone, stood up, and walked out. You could see the rage all over his face. For a man known for calculated composure, that moment was a crack in the armor. But it wasn't. Just anger. The leaks raised a darker question. Had Lauren, the woman Bezos planned to marry, betrayed him behind closed doors? The texts suggested she had shared sensitive concerns about Amazon's business dealings. For Bezos, who has spent decades protecting every detail of his empire, that was an unthinkable violation. The tabloids wasted no time amplifying the tension. One headline screamed, "Did Lauren sell out Jeff?" Another read, "Musk outsmarts Bezos using his own fiancé's words." Suddenly, Bezos wasn't just the victim of Musk's power play, he was the humiliated fiancé whose private life had been turned into global entertainment. Friends close to Bezos say the scandal rattled his inner circle. Advisors questioned whether he could still trust Lauren with access to his world. "Jeff's team is loyal, but they're ruthless," one insider said. "If they sense weakness or betrayal, they won't hesitate to cut her out to protect him." Rumors swirled that Bezos even canceled a string of planned public appearances to avoid facing questions about Lauren's loyalty. And then came the whispers. Was the engagement itself at risk? Paparazzi noticed that Lauren was spotted without her engagement ring at a private dinner in Los Angeles just days after the leaks. While her team denied it meant anything, gossip. Blogs erupted with speculation. Is the $500 million wedding on ice? Meanwhile, Musk's move was seen as genius by his supporters. By leaking Lauren's messages, he hadn't just attacked Bezos' business, he had struck at his heart. The two richest men on Earth weren't just fighting over space travel or market dominance anymore. They were locked in a personal, emotional war that blurred the lines between love and power. For Bezos, the humiliation went deeper than public headlines. To have Musk, the man he despises most, use his fiancée's private words as a weapon was the ultimate insult. And as one former Amazon executive put it, Jeff doesn't take humiliation lightly. If Musk thought this would end with a leak, he doesn't know what kind of revenge he just triggered. But revenge would have to wait. Because before Bezos could strike back, Lauren Sanchez herself would collapse under the weight of the leaks, setting off a chain of events that would drag the couple into an even darker, more public battlefield. The world thought it had seen the climax with the leaks. In reality, this was only the beginning. While Bezos was reeling, Elon Musk was smiling. For him, this wasn't just about a leak, it was a calculated move. A chess piece slid across the board at exactly the right moment. And make no mistake, this wasn't sloppy revenge. It was strategy. Musk had turned private messages into public weapons, and overnight he looked less like an eccentric billionaire and more like the puppet master of Silicon Valley drama. People close to Musk claim he had been sitting on those messages for weeks, waiting for the perfect time to strike. Why? Now? Because the $4 billion case looming in court gave him the stage he craved. By dropping the leaks just as Bezos' legal team was preparing its arguments, Musk didn't just embarrass his rival, he destabilized his foundation. One insider whispered, Elon wanted Jeff emotional, not strategic. This leak wasn't random. It was a power play designed to throw him off balance. And it worked. Overnight, Musk controlled the narrative. Every headline had his fingerprints on it. Late night. Hosts roasted Bezos. Twitter feeds blew up with memes portraying Musk as the king of chaos. One viral tweet read, "Forget rockets. Elon just launched the biggest scandal of the year." Another joked, "Amazon delivers in 2 days, but Elon delivers scandals in 2 seconds." But beyond the jokes, the timing raised disturbing questions. How had Musk even gotten hold of Lauren's private messages? Some tabloids suggested a mole inside Bezos' circle. An assistant, a friend, maybe even a family member, handed Musk the material. Others floated darker theories: hacked phones, private investigators, or quiet deals with people who had access to Lauren's inner life. Nothing was confirmed, but one thing was certain. Musk wanted everyone asking that question. Because the mystery itself gave him power. To his critics, Musk was ruthless. To his fans, he was brilliant. By leaking the messages, he had taken control of a courtroom case without ever stepping foot in the courtroom. Lawyers scrambled, judges were briefed, and Bezos, usually the one dictating the terms of battle, was suddenly playing defense. Then came the smirk. Days after the leak, Musk appeared at a Tesla showcase in Austin, wearing a dark suit and that unmistakable grin. When a reporter shouted, "Do you regret leaking those messages?" Musk paused, looked directly into the cameras and replied, "I don't leak, I innovate." The clip racked up millions of views within hours. Fans turned it into a catchphrase. Memes flooded the internet. Musk wasn't just winning in court, he was winning in culture. But insiders say this was never about the lawsuit alone. Musk's real aim, they argue, was personal. His rivalry with Bezos goes back years. Space, money, influence, legacy, and now, Musk had found a way to wound Bezos in the one place he couldn't shield with lawyers or money: his private life. This wasn't about $4 billion, one commentator declared. This was about Elon proving he could humiliate Jeff on the world stage, and no amount of money could stop him. In that moment, Musk looked untouchable. But behind the smoke and headlines, another storm was brewing. Because as Musk basked in his victory, the case was heading into court. And in court, emotions don't matter. Evidence does. And that's where Lauren Sanchez herself would become the center of the firestorm. If the leaks were the spark, the courtroom became the inferno. The $4 billion case that had once seemed like a dry business dispute now looked more like a Hollywood thriller, and Lauren Sanchez was dragged right into the center of it. On the opening day, the atmosphere inside the courthouse was electric. Reporters lined the steps before sunrise, cameras ready to capture every twitch of Bezos' jaw and every flicker of Lauren's expression. When the couple finally arrived, Bezos in a dark navy suit, Lauren in black from head to toe, the crowd erupted. It wasn't just a legal proceeding, it was a public spectacle. The drama unfolded fast. Bezos' lawyers fought aggressively to keep the leaked messages out of evidence. They argued the texts were obtained illegally, calling them a gross invasion of privacy and a strategic ambush. Musk's team fired back, insisting the messages were crucial to proving dishonesty, manipulation, and a deliberate attempt to mislead the court. For hours, the two sides clashed in front of the judge, their voices echoing across the hushed chamber. And then came the moment that no one could have scripted. Lauren herself was called in for a private deposition. According to insiders, she broke down in tears almost immediately. Eyewitnesses said she trembled as lawyers read her own words aloud, messages that she never dreamed would be dissected in a legal battle worth billions. One attorney reportedly asked her directly, "Were you aware these conversations could be seen as exposing confidential business strategy?" Her answer, whispered through tears, was barely audible. Outside the courthouse, the narrative was already spinning out of control. Talk shows replayed every detail. One anchor declared, "This isn't about business anymore. This is about betrayal, power, and pride." A legal analyst on CNN added, "If these messages are admitted, Bezos isn't just fighting Musk. He's fighting the shadow of his own fiancée's words." The public ate it up. Hashtags like Nidihue, Bezos Breakdown, and Ichitrue Lauren Leak trended worldwide. TikTok creators staged reenactments of the courtroom drama, complete with gavel sound effects and actors reading Lauren's messages in dramatic voices. For a generation raised on reality TV, this wasn't just a lawsuit. It was season 1 of the richest soap opera on earth. But inside those walls, the consequences were deadly serious. Billions of dollars in contracts, corporate reputations, and even Amazon's long-term strategy were at stake. And as the judge weighed whether to allow Musk's evidence, Lauren sat, visibly shaken, wiping tears as Bezos squeezed her hand tightly, his expression stone cold. One courtroom sketch artist described the scene vividly. Lauren was trying to hold herself together, but you could see the devastation etched on her face. Bezos wasn't comforting her. He was gripping her hand like a man trying to keep his world from collapsing. The legal battle had transformed into a personal reckoning. The leaks had already scarred Lauren's public image. Now they threatened to scar Bezos' empire. And the cruel twist? Musk wasn't even in the room. He didn't need to be. His fingerprints were everywhere, but his presence was nowhere. That absence only amplified his power. As the gavel banged and court adjourned for the day, one thing became clear. The billion-dollar courtroom firestorm was no longer about who would win the case. It was about who would survive it. And survival, for Lauren Sanchez, was slipping further away by the hour. By the time the courtroom firestorm spilled into headlines, Lauren Sanchez's private collapse had become painfully public. She wasn't just fighting legal documents anymore. She was fighting cameras, gossip blogs, and even whispers from her own family. The first crack came outside a luxury Beverly Hills restaurant. Paparazzi captured Lauren leaving through the side door, makeup streaked from tears, her bodyguards forming a wall around her as she sobbed uncontrollably. The photos went viral within minutes. Headlines screamed, "Lauren breaks down, the scandal she can't escape." Onlookers described her as shaking, exhausted, and muttering that she couldn't take it anymore. From there, the spiral only deepened. She canceled 2 major charity appearances, avoided red carpet events, and reportedly refused to leave her home for days at a time. A friend close to her told tabloids, "Lauren's always been strong, but this broke something in her. She feels hunted, betrayed. She says Elon turned her life into a weapon and now she's scared to even check her phone." But the most brutal betrayal didn't come from Musk. It came from inside her own family. Outlets reported that a distant relative sold private stories to the press for a 6-figure payout. The revelations were damning. Claims about Lauren's past insecurities, her alleged fights with Bezos, even personal details about how she handled stress behind closed doors. To see her own blood cash in on her pain was, according to insiders, the breaking point. On social media, the frenzy was merciless. TikTok creators edited together clips of Lauren crying with captions like, "From jet setting to regret setting." Twitter memes mocked her breakdown, calling it the billionaire meltdown of the year. Hashtags like Nagich and Fallen Queen and Achu Lauren collapse trended for days. Some users defended her, calling her a victim of Musk's ruthless tactics, while others accused her of hypocrisy for enjoying the perks of power but crumbling under the pressure. Talk shows joined the pile on. One morning, host bluntly said, "She wanted the billionaire life, but this is the other side of it. Every secret becomes a weapon, and every weakness becomes a headline." Another commentator pushed back, arguing, "This isn't weakness. This is what happens when you're outnumbered by men who treat you like collateral damage in their war." The public was divided, but the damage was undeniable. Every teardrop, every canceled event, every rumor sold by her family fed into the narrative that Lauren Sanchez was collapsing in real time. And Bezos. He stood beside her in public, but the cameras caught his distance. Cold stares, tight lips, no smiles. The tabloids spun it as a billionaire love on the brink. Behind closed doors, insiders claimed Bezos' advisors were urging him to distance himself from Lauren, at least until the scandal blew over. But walking away wasn't that simple. Breaking off an engagement of this magnitude would trigger another media hurricane and could hand Musk the ultimate victory. And so Lauren found herself trapped, betrayed by Musk, abandoned by her family, scrutinized by the public, and quietly questioned by the man she was supposed to marry. The woman who once floated above the chaos in helicopters was now grounded in humiliation. But the collapse wasn't the end. It was the setup for the most dangerous twist of all. Because the question wasn't just whether Lauren and Bezos could survive the scandal. It was whether their empire of wealth and influence could withstand the fallout Musk had engineered. And in the final act, the future of power couples everywhere would hang in the balance. The world wasn't watching this saga for love anymore. It had become a theater of power, money, and survival. And at the center of it was a number so staggering it made Wall Street tremble: $4 billion. That was the price tag hanging over Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's relationship, and the number that could decide who walks away victorious or ruined. Court insiders leaked whispers that Bezos' legal team was preparing for a scorched earth strategy. If Lauren dared to press forward, he would unleash financial firepower that could stretch cases for years, draining her resources and turning this into a war of attrition. Bezos had done this before with business rivals, but never with someone he once kissed under Mediterranean stars. Lauren, meanwhile, wasn't backing down. Reports said she had lined up her own team of powerhouse attorneys, funded by allies who believed she was being silenced. One insider described it as a David versus Goliath showdown, except David came dressed in couture and diamond heels. The media painted it as a gamble. If Lauren proved her claims, Bezos could face a public relations nightmare and potentially billions in damages. If she failed, her reputation could shatter, her credibility gone forever. Every move was now a chess play in front of the entire world. And then came the wild card: Elon Musk's involvement. Analysts speculated his alleged leak of private messages wasn't just about revenge or entertainment. It may have been a deliberate attempt to destabilize Bezos at the very moment his empire was vulnerable. Because in Silicon Valley, business feuds often look like personal scandals, but the stakes are always financial and always astronomical. The question became, who would the courts believe? The richest man alive, armed with an army of lawyers, or the woman who had once been his closest confidant? As cameras flashed outside court buildings and pundits screamed across news panels, one thing was undeniable. The 4B gamble wasn't just about money. It was about trust, betrayal, and the fragility of power. Because when love stories end in lawsuits, the world doesn't just ask who won. It asks who lost everything. The dust hasn't settled. If anything, the smoke is only getting thicker. Jeff Bezos has billions, a fortress of lawyers and the kind of power most people can't even imagine. But power doesn't protect you from betrayal. It just raises the stakes. Lauren Sanchez is still reeling, her team working around the clock to stop the bleeding from those alleged leaks. Elon Musk, always the disruptor, sits in the middle of it all like a chess master, leaving the world guessing about his next move. And here's the question no one can answer yet. Was this leak just a headline-grabbing stunt, or the first domino in a $4 billion legal collapse? If that case falls apart, it won't just be Bezos and Sanchez on the line. It could reshape Silicon Valley alliances, Hollywood deals, even Washington power plays. One thing's for sure, the drama is far from over. Because in the world of billionaires, loyalty is a currency rarer than gold. And someone just cashed in. So stay tuned, because what comes next might make this $4 billion scandal look like the calm before the real storm.